Greetings, everyone. Core here. Time for another midnight review, and of course, we went to go see Mission Impossible Fallout. Which, I mean, it's not the new Bethesda Fallout, but it's still Fallout. The whole reason because it's called Fallout is, well, it's because it involves nuclear weapons. So you get the fallout, of course, from whenever a nuclear weapon goes off. So that's the namesake. Pretty much, they've gone away with, of course, numbering them after three. I think they stopped numbering them, and they just went with the, subtitle. So I gotta say, I mean, it's interesting when they're advertising this movie in this last week as having 95% Rotten Tomatoes fresh. Granted, that's usually from the critics because users usually don't see it that early, and they usually don't allow user ratings until today, Thursday, or even the day before because of DMCs and stuff like that. So it's interesting. I think it killed the hype a little bit for me. I think just because I was afraid it wasn't going to be as good as what everybody's saying, but I gotta say it's. I mean, there were a few scenes, some lens flare, which I still hate when it's used overly, and there's a few scenes where, I mean, luckily they're quick, snippets inside a bigger scene, but there's a few spots where it just kind of took me out of it for a second because I'm like, that's a little too much lens flare, or that shot held a little, like, extra second, a little too long. So that's just me. That's just, I'm a stickler for good editing and timing and stuff like that. So it caught me uh, off guard a little bit. But overall, man, like when you get down to the action scenes, surprisingly the music, surprisingly the music doesn't play too big of a impact. I would say compared to like the last, or even compared to just most movies in general, because usually a lot of times for certain scenes they'll have music play to try to amplify the feelings that you're supposed to feel, the dread, the anxiousness, or happiness, the sadness, whatever it is. Where in here, a few scenes, it's like they just cut the music and they just let the sound play, which I think worked perfectly, of course, and it really gets you more involved in the scene, especially since I saw this in Dolby Cinema, which is my favorite kind of format to see it in the theater. So the sound is a lot more involved, a lot more immersive. So you definitely feel like you're there, uh, especially when those bass hits come, and it's like, yeah, you could feel it. So those, I mean, those gunshots, they just feel pure. They're just piercing. So I always recommend to see it in Dolby Cinema. Any movie, really, it just makes everything better, especially visually, as well as the sound, especially the sound. But yeah, man, like there's scenes is like you're tensing up, and you're just like, come on, like they really mastered the intensity, the anticipation, the intensity, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for a word. I just can't think of it. Uh, but yeah, man, like they just work you up in this movie, and there's always a good payoff too. So it's a thing of art. What they do, uh, just how they get you involved. Because in my audience, there was quite a few people that were like oohs and ah, like oh my god, like it was getting people involved, and I was almost right there with them. But yeah, man, it was really cool. The actors, of course, are all great. Uh, Vin Rains was Vin Rains. Vin Rains is fun. He plays a little, I mean, a bigger role than previously. Simon Pegg is in here as well, which he's always great. I always love him in pretty much anything he does. I don't think I found a bad movie yet. Granted, of course, I'm sure I will one day. Uh, Tom Cruise is in here. We don't have uh, Jeremy Reynolds in here, which I don't remember if the last movie said he. I'm pretty sure he was still in the group from the last one, right? Granted, of course, I can't think of the name of the last one. It wasn't. Was it Ghost Protocol? No, it wasn't Ghost Protocol. But yeah, so he's not here, which surprise. I thought he was supposed to be. So I mean, I guess they needed the money for Tom Cruise for all the insurance, because he's at it again doing some crazy stunts. They showed the infamous scene where he's jumping from another building to another building, and he breaks his foot, I believe, in that scene. And they kept that scene, and you could see, man, like you could see the pain on him and hear it when he jumps, and it's a little rough watching it. But yeah, man, everyone does a good job. Henry Cavill's in here, which of course everybody knows him as Superman. Now, well, the new Superman, the latest Superman, the DC, universe Superman. Which of course this is the film that he had to keep his mustache for when they were doing reshoots for Justice League and stuff like that. So that's why he looked a little weird in some of the scenes for Justice League, because they had to digitally remove his mustache, even though I think he could have grew it back fast enough. So I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that big of a mustache, so it's maybe he just has a little hard trouble growing a beard. I don't know. Like, it's weird. So whatever. He's pretty badass in here. He's very headstrong, and it's interesting to see his character, because he's the guy that comes in to tag along with the team so they could, keep him corralled and have a man from another division to keep Tom Cruise in line. But of course, stuff happens. As charismatic as Jeremy Renner is, more imposing for sure, because he's a big fella. Especially against Tom Cruise, who's not a big fella. Even though in the movies they make him think, they try to show that Tom Cruise is a big fella, but he is not a big fella. And I don't know why I said it that way, but I wanted to. So overall, it's a great movie. Definitely worth your dollar. It gets pretty intense for sure in a lot of scenes, which I definitely like, so that's really cool. I mean, everyone does their job and does it well. So I mean, acting was, great. A couple bad guys from the last film show up. Shoot, I'm trying to think what else. Music was good, which I mean, like I said, surprisingly, a lot of the big scenes they actually don't play music too much, so that's pretty cool to say the least. What else? Man, besides saying it's an awesome movie. I mean, I don't think it lives up to the 95%. It could probably hit 90, but I don't know. Like it's very well written. The characters are interesting. The bad guys are interesting. The scenes are amazing. But I guess just because it doesn't have any faults, I mean, besides of course the lens flares, but critics usually don't complain about lens flares too much now. Ever since J.J. Abrams went crazy on Star Trek when the reboots. So I mean, it's definitely not Star Trek lens flares. It's just, I don't know. They just it's not my cup of tea. It is not my cup of tea. So in summary, everything is great. Everything is wow. Really can't think of too many. Really can't nitpick too much. I mean, besides the lens flares, everything else went pretty well. The writing's really good. Like I said, everything's really good. So it's worth your dollar. So definitely go check it out. So until next time, guys. See ya.